Hey, welcome back to the Mining Pod. We got a news roundup for you. Charlie, Matt, Will, we'll be back right in a second after a word from our sponsors.
Hey listeners, let's talk about revolutionizing your mining operation with Foreman. This isn't your average management tool. It's an all-in-one solution for reducing costs and significantly boosting your revenue. Foreman brings a cutting-edge dashboard to your fingertips, empowering you with automated energy strategies. This means not only curtailing around real-time prices, but also strategically enhancing your profit margins through demand response. It's about leveraging energy efficiency to its fullest potential. With Foreman, you get a system that scales with your business, inventory management for assets, infrastructure integration, and business intelligence. Foreman elevates the cash flow and production of your entire operation. To see how Foreman can redefine your mining operation standards, visit foreman.mn. With Foreman, you're not just managing a mining operation, you're setting a new standard in the industry.
Accelerated by Compass is the premier accelerator program for Bitcoin mining sites at any stage of development. Our managed services provide expert guidance in site procurement, construction, energy agreements, and mining operations. Compass helps clients meet timelines and expectations for operational excellence, from greenfield to retrofits and everything in between. Don't just mine, excel. Visit compassmining.io now to discover how Accelerated by Compass can power your success.
Are you a retail or institutional investor interested in Bitcoin mining companies? The Miner Mag brings you free data and analysis from all major NASDAQ-listed Bitcoin mining operations to know who stands out. Check out visualized metrics and data-dependent stories at theminermag.com. Okay, boys, it is Wednesday before the 4th of July, July 3rd afternoon we're recording. We got mining news. Who knows how many people listen to the show because it's coming out on like a Friday morning after the 4th, but we still have a duty and an obligation to our listeners to go through mining news. We'll start first with our difficulty update, and then we're going to go through the Cleanspark Griid acquisition, move over to some of the IPO stuff with GDA and Northern Data, and finish up with a little Crime Watch corner, and maybe some Ordinal stuff as well from Charlie. I don't know if we put that in. Okay, Charlie confirms we have that. We'll do some Ordinals at the end for everyone who needs that kick. Matt, I'm going to kick it to you first for our difficulty update.
Difficulty set to go down 5%. I'm going to call this probably a praise God moment from the mining community, as hash price has taken an absolute beating this year, but I'd say particularly since the kind of ETF flows stalled out, maybe like beginning June time. But yeah, I mean, if you're wondering like why, I think there's probably quite a bit of miners that are really struggling at the margin right now. And maybe we see a little curtailment right now. Maybe we're getting into a little hash rate seasonality where some of the bigger miners are participating in those demand response programs in Texas. Maybe a little lingering, halving effect. I unfortunately, I'm interested to hear y'all's take here. I think this is probably a little short-lived. If you look at the announcements from the publicly listed miners, it just looks like an all-out hash rate arms race. Cleanspark, Marathon, Riot. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. If you're not getting into the AI play and you're a big miner, it looks like you're just deploying more and more hash rate. The S21s are probably being delivered or delivered right around the corner. So while this looks like a temporary relief, I would, if I was at the margin right now, I would be really hoping for some kind of miracle price rally, because I think difficulty is going to rebound and the hash rate's going to keep coming online.
I would agree. I think my other take is that, we see what appears to be hash rate declining, but this happens during there's a bit of seasonality to this. Energy pricing for a lot of Bitcoin miners gets more expensive during the summer. And then my general kind of narrative that I see happening in mining is that there's not as many miners going out of business so much as just getting acquired. In fact, we will talk about that a little bit here, but it's almost like the miners may not turn off as much as they have historically, but just rather get hot swapped out with new owners and rigs.
Imagine if the ETFs hadn't been approved, where would we be at right now? like 40K Bitcoin and what hash price be at?
Different story. Well, I haven't heard the mining FUD death spiral as much this time. We might be hearing it more if that were not the case.
Don't even say the word, Charlie. I don't want to answer those questions for like the 8th time.
Yeah, it's bad. Okay, speaking of hash rate consolidation, let's move over to the Cleanspark news, which I think was probably one of the more interesting things that's happened in the month of June. Yeah, it was just last week. So let's go through this completely, beginning of the story to the end. You can throw up that chart if you want, or the CoinDesk image. So Bitcoin miner Cleanspark agrees to buy peer Griid, Griid, at $155 million deal. We're looking at a CoinDesk piece for this. This was first leaked, or maybe not leaked. I don't know what it is.
It was a speculation,
a speculative scoop. There's not quite a correct way of phrasing this, but Mike Alfred, a noted investor in this space, and also is a non-executive director on the board of Iris Energy, now Irene, said, quote, "This is an unconfirmed, a product of numerous discussions and inferences I've made in recent days, but it seems like highly likely that Cleanspark will acquire publicly traded Griid as part of its push to obtain more than 1 gigawatt of secured power. So bullish, space is fire emoji right now, bullish emoji."
But what happened there?
What? Sorry.
What happened after that?
The market went nuts. The volume on Griid trade, I don't know if you can zoom in or quote that there, but like the price, it pushed past $1 for who knows, the first time in quite a while. I think the price like tripled up to what we got there, 240, 230.
Yeah, it quadrupled or quintupled.
Yeah. So that tells you a few things. One, tells you like how online and engaged in Twitter this mining stock audience is. Mining stocks are interesting, right? Because it's one of the only ways you can get like exposure to crypto through an equity solution. So we do see a lot of people in like the older crowd who are interested in crypto, but not quite ready to open up a MetaMask wallet. They might buy it into their portfolios, and they go to Twitter for their engagement. So there's this whole mining mafia scene. Shout out to them. There's tons of different like players online, the Mara Pigs, the Sparkies. Who else is out there? I think we've talked about this before. They're very engaged, and they have the ability to move these markets quite drastically. This was stopped, I believe, on the NASDAQ because of trade volatility. There was about a week pause, and then the news from Cleanspark came out. So who knows what the investor relationship side of this looks like after that tweet and all the things along with that. But I will say, from a Cleanspark perspective and Griid perspective, this is great for a few reasons. Let me give these, and I'll give them to you guys for some follow-up thought. For Cleanspark, they are of the mindset of like ordering units and plugging in hash rate together, right? They're pretty conservative when it comes to how they do their purchases. And they've made some large purchases this year. They are also making a lot of acquisitions, timely pieces. They have the Georgia sites they purchased, they have Mississippi sites, they have Wyoming site, and now they'll have the ability to grow out in Tennessee. And then just from an energy perspective, these are cheaper sites in the TVA area, which is very friendly to Bitcoin mining. Charlie's wearing a Bitcoin Park hat. We went there in January, did some recordings, and you could just kind of feel the energy there that like Tennessee is ready for Bitcoin mining to grow. On the Griid side, I think this made sense because like you look at their financials and you look at the situation with their hash rate. Their average hash rate per unit was like 20 terahash. So we're looking at S9s. And I just don't think like the capital was there to kind of get them into that next place to be able to compete with some larger players, even though they had done really well on the energy side. And I think that's a thing to be paying attention to if you're in the M&A space. Like just because you don't have like the complete slate of tools or suite of tools for being a Bitcoin miner, if you have even just a few of these things, you're very valuable right now. They just had energy at Griid, a really awesome team, but their assets, the books look like it had energy. And now they get to be a part of Cleanspark after this board approval. Okay, to you guys for any follow-up thoughts.
Rack space is king. This is like you can have old units, but if you've got power contracts and future power contracts locked in, it's still a huge acquisition target. My other point about the stock price is that yes, Mike Alfred tweeted, speculation ran the stock price up for Griid 5x. Then as soon as the news was confirmed, it dropped 50% same day. We're now at I would say, more reasonable 150% above where the original speculation started, which to me, for some of these kind of lower cap mining stocks might make sense, because that's optimistic for Griid and their acquisition. So
yeah, my first thought is that, Will, I appreciate when you do tweet reads that you sound out the emojis. I thought that was a great part of this story read.
Anytime.
With Griid itself, I mean, the story is summed up very well already. I would say, I think really the catalyst that drove the stock price back down was the fact that the kind of enterprise value became very public. And so people were, I think, after the Mike Alford tweet, maybe speculating on the speculation that Griid was going to be this like absolute beast when the numbers actually came out. And so the price went up and up and up and up. And then once the numbers actually came out, it fell a little bit back down to earth. It's interesting, right? We're seeing consolidation. Maybe we keep seeing consolidation, as Charlie said earlier at the beginning of the show. But it definitely seems like the big miners like want to lead in hash rate, right? And that seems to be part of the play here for Cleanspark.
I mean, the big miners right now all have a path to 1 gigawatt or more of energy deployed. And at the same time, they're also making that energy more dense with the compute that they're throwing on top of it with these purchase orders. So if you're not like a big player right now, it is really hard to find that margin. I think that's one of the lessons I'm pulling away from this. For a company like Griid, which had some financial struggles to be able to get to that place where they're going to be able to refresh their fleet, this makes sense because you're able to join another team that's obviously been killing it for quite a while. And you were able to get a good price for the energy contracts that you were smart enough to develop over the last few years. And I think that's going to happen more, whether it be like because of an energy contract or something else. You're going to see consolidation in the M&A space based on like the mutual interests. The other one, of course, would be like Core Scientific and CoreWeave. CoreWeave tried to buy CoreSci. I don't think that didn't go through. It was rejected, but maybe in the future something like that does happen. And the rationale, of course, is Core Scientific is coming out of bankruptcy. The books are looking really healthy. They have about 550 megawatts under development or already online. And they have the ability to plug in some of these like NVIDIA HPC things. So there is some really good opportunities for joint venture work / M&A in the space right now. Let's leave that and go over to the IPO space. It's a pretty like heavy day on terms of public miners, but that's okay.
In the competitive world of Bitcoin mining, one name stands out: Cleanspark, America's Bitcoin miner. At Cleanspark, efficiency isn't just a goal, it's our standard. Our sophisticated facilities are built and led by expert teams who care about Bitcoin and the communities we work in. Scale, we've mastered it. Our large-scale operations have set us apart in the industry as examples of community-oriented building. Our track record speaks for itself. We navigate the complexities of the new economy with precision and with skill, continuously achieving operational milestones. Curious about how we do it? We invite you to discover the story behind Cleanspark's success at cleanspark.com.
Let's talk about GDA and Northern Data with their IPO announcements. I'll throw it over to you, Matt.
Yeah, Northern Data, background on Northern Data, right? They were one of the biggest Ethereum miners really pre-merge. And now I would say they're one of the largest European AI firms. And so, the numbers here, I think, are the thing that stand out to me that's the most staggering, right? The valuation for Northern Data going public for their HPC and cloud business, right, looks is reported to be at the 16 billion mark. And just to like put that in perspective, right, the biggest like pure play miners, Bitcoin miners, right, are like Marathon and Cleanspark, which combined have a market cap of about 10 billion. And so it just shows you like the demand for AI is huge right now. I mean, just look at like NVIDIA, where it is now compared to a year ago. It has tripled, right? We're talking several $1 trillion market cap. These numbers are really staggering, and you hear them and you're probably like, oh, okay, maybe that makes sense. But I think if you look at them in context and really think about what it means, they're staggering, and it's interesting to see it being reported. What do you guys think?
I agree with you. It is the main. I think I saw something like the main super narrative right now is AI and AI compute. So you see that reflected here in the Northern Data IPO consideration. I will note that in my own experience, I only have one kind of story that I measure this against, which is where Northern Data announced a 200 megawatt mine here in Oklahoma, which never actually had any legs. So I want to say there is the title and the narrative here is Northern Data weighs AI unit US IPO. Does not necessarily mean they're going to IPO. We will have to see that. I understand in this particular type of European public company, they have a little bit different communication style. So we'll see.
We shall see. Just for listeners, Mining Pod is considering an IPO at $17 billion. So if you'd like to get in on advisors, we are taking early payments for investments if you'd like to do that as well. The Northern Data stuff is interesting in terms of like the structure for the company. So they did recently get a Tether investment. I believe that was in the fall. I cannot remember the dollar value for that off the top of my head, but it was into the hundreds of millions, if I'm not mistaken.
There was a major debt facility, I think, at about 500 million.
Okay. So it's a credit line.
Yeah. Tether keeps winning, I think, is the story.
Yeah, Tether keeps winning. And Tether is going public through other people going public. So, when Swan goes public with Swan Mining or something else, smart Tether, you probably can't go public in the US, but you can go public through your investments. That is one thing notable. The other is that Northern Data does have a very large site they're building outside Galveston right now. I think it's like 300 megawatts of mining and then another 300 for like batteries. It's gonna be like an immersion site. And that site I could very easily see like swapping to like HPC style stuff. Maybe has even happened. Somewhat paid attention to that scene because I know some people who've been working on that deal. It's been kind of all over the place. So the information's likely stale. That being said, they're growing in the US. They're looking for more megawatts. This piece itself talks about how they have, 800 megawatts in the pipeline? You can scroll down there.
700, I think.
700. Gotcha. So, it's like the last stories we were talking about. Everyone's trying to get their energy pipeline up to 1 gigawatt, and Bitcoin miners have an edge because they've been sourcing cheap energy for a decade now.
My question, I guess, at the end of this for you guys is the AI demand sustainable, right? And I feel like that's maybe like a theme of the year. Is it going to keep going, or is all this preparation and building out energy infrastructure and assets like going to have a big bubble?
This is weird. I guess if I could have one take, it's that this feels a lot like the internet boom of the late 90s, early 2000s, where we know the internet's going to be big, but perhaps the market is way overzealous. And I just cannot imagine that AI outprices like other real cash flow industries right now. This specific, I would say like maybe there's other industries which are undervalued relative to AI right now. Who knows? We'll see.
Matt, you can't just ask us to become industry experts on AI. It's unfair.
Need ASIC help? Check out Vitamine, one of Bitmain's certified repair shops located in Washington State with satellite offices in Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas. PSUs, hashboards, immersion setups, in and out of warranty repair, Vitamine has you covered. Want to train your technicians? Bring Vitamine to your site for hands-on training in the art of ASIC repair, complete with Bitmain AMTC certification. Contact Vitamine today at dan@vmasic.com. Again, that's dan@vmasic.com. When you think of ASIC repair, think Vitamine.
Let's go to the other one. So it was GDA. Quick color on this, and then we'll go to the last two stories. So GDA is also looking at possibly going public. They're one of the largest private Bitcoin miners on. We've had Philip from GDA on the show with Taylor and Mark back in the late winter. I think it was in December. So like early winter. That was a really interesting show. So if you're interested in GDA, go check that one out. GDA, Genesis Digital Assets, they're known for a few things. One, like I said, one of the largest private Bitcoin miners. I think it said they had like 20 sites in North America. And then also famous for the FTX investment. I think that was, Matt has more details on that, so I'll hand it over to you.
The FTX investment? This is like technically through Alameda, which is like the associated hedge fund.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we basically, back when the bankruptcy filings were coming out, and SBF was, basically imprisoned, John Ray took over to handle all the proceedings. It came out how much Genesis was actually mining. It was a pretty big player. There was a lot of, I recall talks back then, and someone might correct me on this in the comments or on Twitter, that there was discussions of, should we basically roll up and sell all of Genesis assets to prepare to give money back to creditors now, or should we basically let them keep mining and hope that it's a cash flow productive vehicle that will pay creditors back more later? I'm not sure what ended up being the conclusion of that story, but it seems to me, at least, that they kept mining, right? There's potential IPO coming out here. I'm not sure how they'll actually stack up. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have active hundreds of megawatts, so they're no small shop. But who knows what machines they actually have deployed, right? And how cost efficient they are. What do you guys think?
Really quick on the numbers. So they invested $1.15 billion into GDA at a $5 billion valuation at the time in 2022. Obviously, we went into a bear cycle after that. So like valuations change. Who knows what this IPO could look like? Gotta be up there though. If it's in 2022, they're at $5 billion. They've been growing. Doesn't seem like there's been any setbacks. I don't know what happened with the clawbacks for that investment into GDA. We've seen a lot of different situations with those clawbacks. So Anthropic would be one of them, where Alameda invested in that AI company. I think they elected to keep it for a while, and then they recently sold large portions of it. So not quite sure what's happened with that. Charlie, any thoughts on that before we go to our last segment?
I believe it was confirmed Genesis had total power capacity exceeding 500 megawatts. That makes them one of the largest miners in the world. If it's all prop mining, then is that number one? I have trouble keeping track.
500 megawatts?
Yeah.
Of actual mining?
Yeah.
So it depends on no, I don't think so, because Marathon's now at 30 exahash. But it depends, all these metrics are basically how you want to boil them down, right? Because 50% of Marathon's fleet isn't hosted, so they don't own it, like Applied Digital or others own it. And so maybe would you take that 50%? Or you could take the Rockdale numbers. Rockdale for Riot is supposed to be 750, but they don't always have it online all the time because of demand response. And then they have large sections of it, just not even energized. Of course, Canada's going online. But yeah, I feel if you're getting over 300 plus, you're getting really big. Cleanspark's at 200 megawatts of deployed hash rate right now, and they have 20 exahash. So
so I'd like to see how much of that is prop mining that they fully own, that is theirs, and what models, because that puts them up there as a contender.
Marathon is reporting 30 exahash. I believe Riot is reporting 22 exahash. I mean, it's so we don't have to. I don't know if this is cut or not, but what's wild about these numbers is if you put them in context, a year ago, the whole network was 350 exahash. One of these miners is near 10% of what it was a year ago. That's how much hash rate, that's how much energy has come online in a post-halving world. It's wild. It's pretty wild. the public miners are getting big. It would be interesting to see maybe a month from now or so, we'll have more public numbers and we can do a dive into this. Well, what percentage of the network is publicly listed in the States? I know what it used to be like 20%. We're increasing right now. Some of the older machines, some of the older miners, maybe the ones turning off right now is like these big, largely debt and equity funded, like can just continue hashing ones grow and expand.
And I think the other crazy thing is, we intuitive for us, we're always surprised to see this much hash rate and power come online. But we're not surprised that it does double every year or so. But it's crazy to me that how understudied this industry is. There's not a lot of, I would say, industry experts who do deep dive analysis compared to like another commodities production business like oil and gas, which is well understood and studied. But we're approaching in some regions of the world where mining now approaches like major energy production in terms of like gross revenue to that part of the world. And it's grown so rapidly and shown up so quickly that it's almost not even understood by industry experts within that sector. So for us to have to gut check exactly where a lot of these pubcos like hash rate is because it's like hard to keep up. That's just surprising and indicative of where the industry currently sits.
Man arrested with nearly 600,000 worth of stolen Bitcoin mining computers, police say. I got sent this story by like 3 or 4 different Bitcoin miners, so I thought we'd just include it in today's show. Quote, according to KTLA5, a Canyon countryman was arrested on Thursday after police say he possessed hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stolen computers that are being used to mine cryptocurrency. Brian Thola, 26, possessed computers worth $600,000 in a cargo van in a public storage unit. The Los Angeles Police Department said in a news release, those computers were used for mining Bitcoin.
This made into normie narrative. I don't know who's out there buying rigs from the back of a van anymore in the US, but apparently this guy thought someone would. I mean, these days, if you have that many rigs, you typically have serial numbers tracked. You're watching these, and it's hard not to get caught. So if you're out there, if you're some kind of rig hand out at one of these mining operations, don't do this, because this will be you.
You're not above the law. No, the other point I do like about this is how it does make into press releases. I think in like normie media eyes, this is kind of like a cocaine bust, even though obviously like this guy is kind of doing his own thing with.
Can you imagine the police photos where they're all standing and they have like a single rig?
They're all like their arms crossed.
All I'm saying is they're not stealing like counterfeit check or counterfeit dollar machines. They're stealing miners. So what does that tell you?
It's true. Not your ASIC. Last story. I don't even know what Charlie's got for us. So
1 minute of ordinals is all you get. So basically, these are down big. They're fluctuating between the single digits and double digits right now. But you would think that's because ordinals and runes are dead, which is true. They are dead. But right now, depending on the day, they're about half of the transactions on Bitcoin by number of transaction. And they are about 30 to 50% of the fee revenue towards miners. So what I hear is, my takeaway is that right now, transaction activity overall is down. In the secondary markets, the runes and ordinals market caps have been in a 2-month gradual grind downwards. But we've seen some life enter back into these digital assets. I think this could be, the next couple of weeks could be one of those where we're like, oh, the market's returning. My node monks, my OMBs, they're going back up. We'll see. Historically, people who said that this market is totally dead have regretted saying that. I'm not going to tell you what you should buy, but maybe you should take a look at it again.
Charlie making a short call on the market. This is the bottom, folks.
Charlie, you made a great point there, and I don't know why Will didn't include this in a show. He must not want to share it with listeners. That the transaction fee environment is down big time right now.
It is.
Hearing that the Ordinals community is about 30% of it, that's very significant when it's, I think we're at like 6 to 8 sats per V-byte, basically, which is, I mean, time to open your Lightning channels, consolidate your UTXOs, folks. Let this be your friendly mining pod reminder.
Your PSA.
Yeah, I guess, will the mempool clear this weekend? I think that's the big question. We only have about a day's worth of blocks to chew through. So we're headed towards a US holiday. We're headed towards people not being online as much in the West for a few days. The mempool is dangerously low and thin. I think the mempool is not going to clear. There's enough people who have latent demand for transactions right now. I think you had the fear of God put into some of these UTXO proliferated wallets. So I think there's going to be there's going to be a hard line, a buyer of last resort around the 2 to 3 sat per V-byte fee rate range. But yeah, we're gonna get close.
Love it. Okay, gents. 4th of July. Happy 4th, both of you. Hope you enjoy it. If you're listening to this, we just had the 4th because we're putting this out on Friday. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We have a great podcast with Leo Zhang on Alchemia, which is actually talking about transaction fees. So we'll get into that. And then more to come. Charlie, anything on Bitcoin Season 2 that we should plug?
No, subscribe to Bitcoin Season 2. All the hottest conversations happen there. Also, the Gwart Show.
Gwart Show is pretty good too. Okay, see you guys later. Peace.